Back to Europe.
Breaking right now at 8 a.m. on Local 3, the Ukrainian president addressed members of Congress this morning, asking them to do more to stop Russia's invasion.
Denver 7's Colette Bordelon joins us live in the studio with a breakdown on what Volodymyr Zelensky had to say to our nation's lawmakers, and that the largest conflict on the European continent since the end of World War II.
Yeah, and even though it was all through a translator, you could really feel all of that emotion packed into this virtual address from Zelensky. The speech lasted around 20 minutes. It was met with a standing ovation from Congress after the Ukrainian president referenced several different moments of American history to make his point. Zelensky spoke directly to President Biden, saying being the leader of the world means being the leader of peace. He even showed Congress graphic footage from Ukraine, reinforcing the fact that as he speaks, his people are under attack. Zelensky's biggest request is for NATO to impose a no-fly zone, something that's been a non-starter. NATO allies worry that will further provoke Russia. Now, there is an alternative. Zelensky says Congress knows what kind of defense systems are needed in Ukraine and how much depends on the ability to use powerful aircraft to protect his people and their freedom. Like I said, Zelensky brought up emotional moments from our country's history like Pearl Harbor and September 11th, trying to give us an understanding of the situation in his own country that we can almost feel.
I have a dream. These words are known to each of you. Today I can say, I have a need. I need to protect our sky. I need your decision, your help, which means exactly the same you feel when you hear the words, I have a dream.
While he's grateful for the support already given, Zelensky is calling on the U.S. to do more. He wants more sanctions, proposing the U.S. sanction all politicians in the Russian Federation who remain in their offices. Zelensky says all American companies must leave Russia's market immediately because, quote, it is flooded with our blood. He says peace is more important than income, and that is a principle that must be defended. Now, reactions to his speech are just starting to roll in. Guys, I'll have some of those coming up at 8:30 for you.
Wow.
Live in the studio, Colette Bordelon, Denver 7.
All right,
Powerful words there. Thank you, Colette.
Well, we're going to be hearing from President Biden in about 90 minutes. He'll announce another $800 million in military aid for Ukraine.
Today's announcement will bring the total pledged aid for Ukraine to more than $1 million just this week. Switching gears now, let's get to Lisa with a look at the weather today. Kind of a nice start, a little overcast, but some changes are coming quickly here, Lisa.
Yeah, pretty fast too by this afternoon. You're right, though, it's mild out there right now. Even with some of that cloud cover, we're looking at temperatures mainly in the low to mid 40s right now. It feels like 36 in Denver, but again, for this time of year, pretty mild. We'll be in the mid to upper 40s here by about 9 o'clock, still with some pretty dry conditions. 50 by noon, low 50s for highs, but then we'll start to see some rain showers develop, switching over to all snow tonight. So get ready for a wet evening commute this evening. Again, you're going to find temps right around 50 to near 52 by this afternoon. 30s and 40s just off to the west. Evergreen today, 45. Fast forward to about 5:30 this evening. That's when we'll start to see some wet conditions. That's going to then turn over to all snow overnight tonight with some pockets of really heavy snow across parts of the Front Range. I'll show you where we're going to see some of the most impressive snowfall totals, the timing of all of this. Plus, Katie, this is not the only storm on our Super 7 day. We have another chance of snow next week. We'll take a closer look at that coming up.
Ooh, great. All right, so wet roadways tonight and some slushy and sloppy conditions tomorrow. In terms of right now, what's happening across Denver Metro, it's dry, but some good news to report. We have I-25, all lanes reopened on the northbound side there at 8th Avenue. And taking you to the map, the drive time will significantly improve now that all lanes have opened there, but it's still pretty backed up there with some stop and go traffic, C470 up to Colfax. Federal has reopened at 54th Avenue, so no delays there. I-76 continues to be slow, especially westbound. The eastbound drive wide open, and then South Havana Street still closed. They're working on getting a rollover crash cleaned up. They're right by MLK Jr. Boulevard. In terms of the drive up to the high country, no problems right now. Westbound I-70 Golden to Silverthorne will take you only 53 minutes. We do still have a closure here on westbound I-70. Head further to the west near Glenwood Canyon, so not a lot of traffic in the area, but just be aware detour is in place. And also a big traffic shift on I-70 for the Central 70 project. There's been a lane switch right here at Brighton Boulevard and Steel Street.
Thank you, Katie. Well, we're all looking for ways around the higher gas prices that we're seeing, and that includes rideshare companies.
Yeah, starting today, if you take an Uber, you will be charged an extra fee for your trip. The company is adding the fee to offset those higher gas prices drivers are paying. So this morning, we're taking a 360 in-depth look at what's being done to lower the prices. We'll look at the push for more local oil production, the amount of oil Colorado already produces, what it takes to drill new wells in our state, and how much our refineries can actually produce.
First, here's a look at the current average price per gallon in Colorado. We've stayed at $3.97 for the past several days, but that's still 60 cents more than what we were paying a month ago. Denver 7's Veronica Acosta starts our team coverage. And Veronica, you spoke to an Uber driver who is struggling to make ends meet with these high gas prices.
So if you were planning on hopping onto an Uber ride as to not have to go and top off your gas tank, you might want to think about that for one more second. And that's because the company is adding a surcharge, charging just a little bit more for those rides. So not only is Uber doing this, Uber Eats also doing the same thing. So let's run you through exactly what that surcharge is. Uber is going to charge their riders 45 to 55 cents more for each ride, and then Uber Eats, they're going to be charging for those deliveries anywhere between 35 to 45 cents more, and this is to help drivers. All of those extra dimes are going to go back into their pockets to help them fill up their gas tanks. We did speak to that Uber driver who uses this other method to help sustain her stallion breeding company. She says she's happy about this and thinks it's really going to help her break even.
I'm happy with it, and I love driving for Uber because it allows me the flexibility with my business that I run to add in the hours where it's fitting, and so far it seems to be a good thing. That bonus was very important for me to know that I was going to be able to continue.
And now Uber, not the only rideshare that's going to be adding this surcharge. Lyft just announced they're going to be doing the same thing. They haven't said exactly how much they're going to be adding on top of what they were already charging, but the two companies do say this is temporary. They're going to evaluate, or rather reevaluate, once those gas prices start coming down. We're in Denver this morning. I'm Veronica Acosta, Denver 7.
Thank you, Veronica. Well, later this morning, Colorado Republicans will announce a resolution in support of more domestic oil and gas production. Colorado already ranks 5th in the U.S. for oil, and we checked, the U.S. is already the top oil producer in the world. Our consumption just outpaces production. Here's a look at the top 3 countries. The U.S. produces 20%, followed by Saudi Arabia with 12 and Russia with 11. While increasing Colorado's oil output seems like a simple solution, it's not that easy. The number of active rigs in the state has held steady at about 14 since February. That's down by nearly half since 2019. Money is a concern here. It costs to open a well and even more to drill a new one. Experts say the pandemic hurt oil producers' bottom lines, and they are not ready to take risk. Energy companies are also dealing with supply chain problems and staffing shortages.
Colorado has 2 operating petroleum refineries in Commerce City. They can process 103,000 barrels of crude oil a day, about a third of our state's demand back in 2020. And as we try to save on gas and improve our gas mileage, Consumer Reports has some simple tips. Pay attention to aerodynamics, remove roof racks or bike racks to not weigh your car down more. Also check your tire pressure. Low tire pressure can impact your gas mileage. And obey the speed limit. The difference between driving 55 and 65 miles per hour can be 6 to 7 miles per gallon.
Quite a bit. Well, Colorado families are one step closer to universal pre-K. House Bill 1295 will go before a committee tomorrow. It would create the Department of Early Childhood, which would oversee the universal preschool program. That program would provide 10 free hours of preschool for Colorado families each week and help streamline the process to access preschool. State officials hope that the first year of enrollment would be the 2023 and 2024 school year. And this morning, a state review panel says Adams 14 School District needs to make some big changes to keep operating.
Their recommendations include a combination of reorganization, creating a separate board to ensure accountability, or even closing Adams City High School. The report cites a culture that is divisive at best and mentions concerns of fear and retaliation. It goes on to say leadership has not created systems or structures to lead data-driven changes. It also talks about declining enrollment and low performance, and says the district has shown it is unwilling to be managed.
Adams 14 says the problem is that it was run by the wrong people. The district recently parted ways with MGT Consulting, a firm hired to correct several years of poor performance. The district also insists it's already added new leadership and says this report is slanted and can't reflect the district as it is today.
We asked a spokesperson and the district's attorney why people should believe Adams 14 can turn things around and if there's been any thoughts on what could have been done better.
This is an experienced board. And what the State Board of Education needs to do is they need to wipe the egg off their face by forcing the relationship with MGT and allow this board and allow this superintendent to start turning things around.
I would equate this report to a broken clock that doesn't work. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. There may be some small nuggets to reflect on it, but the rest of those 23 and a half hours, the clock is sending you an inaccurate message that undercuts the credibility of any reflection in it.
The State Board of Education is set to discuss Adams 14's status next month. We asked if they will likely accept any of the recommendations in the report, and we're told that that's not likely.
Still ahead at 8, a sign that COVID really is getting better in Colorado when the state plans to close its community COVID vaccine clinics. And today marks the start of a new era for the Broncos. Russell Wilson will be formally introduced as the new quarterback today. A look at the new players being signed to help fill out the roster.